Welcome to the Till Death Did We Part podcast, a space where two hearts, two stories, and two journeys of love and loss come together. Each week, we share the raw, real, and sometimes surprising paths we've walked after losing the love of our lives. Join us, Kaylee and Kristen, as we explore the complex layers of grief, healing, and everything in between.
In this podcast, we're not just surviving, we're living, loving, and finding joy in the moments that matter most. So grab a cup of coffee or a shot of Fireball, settle in, and let's talk about what it really means to lose someone and how to learn to carry their love with you forever.
Let's just start over, Kaylee.
Well, hello.
Welcome back to the Till Death Did We Part podcast with Kaylee and Kristen.
Great job. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I got to give you an apology because when I just started to say that, I did have a moment of panic of, wait, what are we? What is our podcast called?
See? It's a lot of
So I
pressure
get
to
it.
say our
I
name.
get it. I do get it. Well, we have a powerful episode today. I was going to say heavy, but I don't think that's fair. There's a lot of lightness in it, but
I think
there's
it's
definitely
powerful.
there's some heavy parts to it too. So let's just jump
Let's
right
just
into it.
go. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's bring her on. Let's bring Tammy on. And today we have Tammy with us.
Welcome, Tammy.
Thanks, you guys. Excited to be here. A little nervous, too.
A little bit. It's a lot of mixed emotions.
Yes.
Tammy and I have known each other for almost 17 years now, which is crazy pants. Her daughter is the love of my life, my bestest friend in the whole wide world. And so, unfortunately, I do know the story that's coming our way. So, just a little bit of trigger warning for you guys. This episode will contain some talk about suicide and mental illness. So, just putting that out there before we get started.
All right, Tammy. Why don't you start with telling us how you all met?
Okay, this is a cute story. We met it was, I think, June or July of 2017. And one of my dearest friends I've known for a long time was having a retirement party. And I originally wasn't going to go because I had softball doubleheader because I used to be a badass back in the day before all my stuff started breaking. And then I thought, I love her and I've known her so long. I'm just going to miss my first game. I'll go to the second game and I'll make an appearance. So I go to her party. And while I'm there, her nephew, Bobby, my late husband, who I had heard about for 15 years, because she'd always say, I'm going to go pick up Bobby's boys and hang out with them. And so had heard about him forever. Had even done happy hour with his mom prior to that. And so we're at them party, and he comes over and says hi to all her friends that he knows, and then he just like all suave introduces himself and walks off, right? Like, then I notice he stares at me everywhere I'm going. And I even asked a friend, I was like, is he watching me? And they were like, yep. So that's how we met. And then when I was leaving, I was telling, I know we're not supposed to say names, huh? Does it matter? I don't know. Anyway, I told my friend bye. And his mom came over and she said bye. And she's like, wait, before you leave, my son thinks you're cute. And I was like, oh, I think he's cute too. Not every guy can pull off a bald head. So he did. And so she had me go over and, talk to him for a minute. So we chatted for a few minutes, and then I went to softball. And then later that weekend, I went and picked up my friend for her birthday dinner. And she's like, real quick, my nephew wants to go out on a date. He asked, it's fine with me. But if you guys go out, it's up to you guys at that point. So we chatted through Facebook for a couple of months. He had been divorced for a while, but was living with his grandfather and had just gotten full custody back of his sons and was trying to get a house. And so he just kept saying, I just got to get this wrapped up and get us a place. And then we can, then I'll ask you out. And sure enough, the week after, 2 days after he closed on his house, we went on our first date, and that was September of 2017. So, yeah. Yeah, and he tells the story. It's so cute when he tells it, because people, when they ask, he went to some stuff with my work when we did an on-site, and people were asking, how'd you guys meet? And he says, everywhere she walked, there was just a light that followed her in a glow, and it just like joy. And I thought, I want that in my life. So,
Aw,
That's
really cute.
Yes.
So, how long were you guys together before you got married?
Oh, let's see. We started dating in September of 2017. He proposed in October of 2022. Then we got married in March of 2023. So it was just over 5 years that we had been dating. 5.5. I didn't think he would ever get married, but we might come to that part of the story a little later because there's a lot of Jesus in this.
That's for sure.
Woo woo.
Ain't that the truth?
Well, are you ready to tell us what happened?
Sure.
Take a deep breath.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So Bobby had always struggled with depression. I'm pretty sure he was probably undiagnosed bipolar because his highs were very high and his lows would look like in bed for days, not eating, have to go to his house and make sure he was still okay. He also had a meth addiction that I did not know about because, in Dare when I was young, if you did meth, you had scabs and no teeth. And Bobby had lots of teeth and no scabs. So,
So how was I supposed to know?
yeah. And he drank a lot of Pepsi. So I just thought he didn't sleep much. So this is important to the story because I think it leads up to what happened that night because he had a meth addiction for the first 5 years of our relationship that I had suspected at one point. He said, I'd just been using for 2 weeks. Then in May of 2022, there was an episode when I was leaving town and I was like, I'm going to consider if I want to stay in this relationship. He dropped me off the airport and then he went home and proceeded to do all his drugs because he raised his hand in church that day. So he was going to have one last hurrah before he gave it to God. He said he overdosed and saw Jesus and died and came back. And that was May of 2022. So he had been sober from May of 2022 till his death. But in that, he found God, but he never found any other real coping mechanisms for his depression. And he was a union sheet metal worker. And so sometimes his work was very seasonal, like construction gets slow, they get laid off. And every time that happened, he would hit another low. So in November of 23, 24. What year are we in? 26?
26.
Girl, you sound just like me. I'm like, what's today?
Yeah.
Who am I?
know.
I know. Is it summer break yet? Can I be a teacher this year? So in November of 24, he was doing really well. Like the best I had seen him as far as continual joy and doing the right things. And then he got laid off after getting a promotion and being promised to stay at that level. And he tanked after that. He spent most of December sleeping. January and February, same thing. And then on March 10th, I was flying out on the 11th. And so March 10th, the night before I was flying out, he was sitting on the couch and he was just really somber and he looked weird. And he had told me he needed to confess and had admitted to cheating on me the first year and a half we were together. And so then I fly out the next day and we don't talk about it because I'm not going to do that over the phone. And he started telling me when I was gone that he wasn't sleeping and he was hearing voices and he had ringing in his head and he just wasn't in a good space. And so then I came home on March 17th from visiting my mom and sister. And that week, he just wasn't sleeping. He did go to his first therapy session of his entire life on March 17th. So I thought, oh, good. He finally sees, he's got to figure something out and deal with all the trauma of his life. He had a very traumatic life. He's been through a lot. And so that week I got sick because, you're on a plane over spring break.
Yep.
And so we just had kind of a quiet week at home and he was in his head a lot, kept talking about hearing the ringing and couldn't sleep. And I didn't think it was much different than any other time. And then that weekend, that Sunday, which would have been the 23rd, it was 2 days after our wedding anniversary because that Friday night, he was like, what does it say about us? We're not celebrating our anniversary. And I was like, well, it says we're tired and sick and we can celebrate any time. It doesn't mean we love each other less. Like we're just tired, right?
Right.
So then that Sunday, he just couldn't even talk. I was doing laundry and I remember him saying, I'm done. And I was like, with what? You don't want to be married anymore? Like it just was out of nowhere. And so I gave him some Unisom and he took a nap and then he got up and seemed to be doing better. And so then we just had a regular Sunday I told him to write down what he was feeling since he was having a hard time with words. And he wrote stuff about he was a two-timing snake in the grass and he'd hurt his family and that, I was the best partner he could ask for and I deserved better. And we sat and I talked to him about how these were all intrusive thoughts and lies and none of them were true, that the person he was when he did that is not who he is today, right? He's saved. It's all brand new. And I forgave him. And we talked about him going to inpatient therapy. And so we were looking online at a couple different places. And so Monday, while I was at work, he was supposed to look at him and call insurance and figure some stuff out. And he kept getting worried about how much it would cost. And I was like, you're worth any penny, like whatever we have to do. And so we'd even packed his little suitcase for him. So his little suitcase is packed. And on Monday, he was supposed to look into this stuff. So then we go and we have dinner. We have a great time. We go walk around Walmart. We get some stuff. We come back. We watched our Sunday night shows like old people. We just sat there. And then about 9:30, I said, I'm going to go to bed. And I said, why don't you come up with me? And he's like, no, I won't be able to fall asleep. So then I wake up at 12:15 and I go downstairs and the hall light was on and the TV was on. And my dog Taters, who's probably behind me, actually, he's in the other room, was sitting looking out the door. And I knew that meant Bobby left because he always watched. So I went upstairs to get my phone and call and see where he was. And I had a missed call from from my oldest stepson. And I called him back and he said, are you okay? Are you all right? And I was like, I'm fine, but your dad's not here. And he said, his sons lived in his house still. So when we got married, Bobby moved in here and his sons lived at his house. And so his son said, well, he just barged in the house screaming, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? And I thought he hurt you. And he says he's acting like he's tweaking and he's freaking out. And he was trying to get into the gun safe in the dark. He said, and I just left because now he's just acting manic. And I said, do you want me to call the police? And he says, yes. He says, I need to get away from here. And I told him, call your brother and tell him not to come home because his brother worked nights and would have been on his way home at this point. So I called the police and reported it. And I told my stepsons, why don't you guys come over here and remove yourself from the situation? And so I waited here for the boys. And after a while, they didn't show up. I called them and they were there speaking with the police. And at that point, Bobby had the gun and he was in a standoff with the police because they thought, yeah.
Yeah.
And so my oldest stepson said, I think they're going to shoot him. He's trying to do suicide by cop or whatever it's called. And so I get in my car and I drive over at that point. And as I get there, I see, I'm not kidding, like at least 4 cop cars leaving the street. And so this woman officer was walking to her car and I rolled down the window and I said, were you just at, and I gave them the address. And she said, yeah, who are you? And I said, I'm the wife. And I hear her go on a radio and say, I've got the wife over here. So another cop comes over and they ask me to meet them at a parking lot nearby to, get everybody from the situation. So I go over there and they tell me they don't have enough to hold him or take him in, and that they have to de-escalate the situation. So they're just going to let him go. They asked me questions like, has he ever threatened? And I'm like, well, in December, he said how often he thinks it would be so much easier if he just got a gun and ended his life, but he could never do that to me and the boys. So he would go tell the supervisor the answer, and then they come back, it's not enough to hold him. So that went on for a few minutes, and they just told me and the boys should probably go stay at a hotel and let him cool down for the night. I called my oldest stepson, and he told me, he says, they're all just leaving him. And I said, well, here's what they said we should do. Because, you didn't want the boys at the house because you don't know what's going on in his head at that moment. So we go get a hotel room and we stay there. And the next morning, and I even went home the next morning because I was just going to go to work. For whatever reason, I believed what he said about he wouldn't do that to me and the boys, right? Because in any world, I would never think he would have done this. So I couldn't sleep. So about 5:30, I get up, I come home, I get a shower. I put his little bag on the front step with a note, please get help. And I hate myself for this, but I changed the code on the lock so that he was forced to go get help. So as I'm driving to work, I was like, what are you doing, Tammy? Like, you can't function. You haven't slept all night. You don't know where your husband is. So I called my friend who's his aunt. And I said, hey, I'm really scared. This happened last night and I haven't heard from him. So we call her friend who has experience in both suicide and addiction. And she says, do a welfare check. They'll respond differently. So we call the welfare check. Then her and I drive to his house to make sure he's still there because that's where we send him. And when we pull up, his truck is still in the middle of the road where it was from like the standoff with the cops with the passenger side door open, which apparently is where he kept standing and reaching into the truck with the officers.
Mhm.
So I look in there and his car keys and his cell phone are laying there. So I get ready to shut the car door and a police officer pulls up. And I went over and I said, are you here for the welfare check? He's like, yes. Asked who I was, and I told him, and he says, there's no easy way to tell you this, but your husband's gone. And so then two more cop cars pull up, and at that point, I just collapse on the curb because, then all of a sudden you're thinking, why didn't I go to him? Why didn't I call him? Why didn't I do 200 things different? And so the aunt comes over and she's like, well, can we see him? Because, you're like, it's not him. But
Yeah.
the cop's like, well, it was a pretty, what do you call it, unique description because he was in buffalo plaid pajama pants and a Goonies t-shirt because he wandered out of the house in his pajamas. So, and I'm certain, looking back at it, that they probably had body cam footage from the incident just hours before, right?
Yeah.
Because that went on till I was at the parking lot with the police officers. I think I left there at like 2:08 a.m. It was right after 2 a.m. And so they said that we couldn't because it was in someone's yard. It was on private property. So he had wandered somewhere in his neighborhood and took his life by gunshot to the head in somebody's random yard. Just took off walking after they left him. So yeah, then that day was just pure hell because then I had to go to the hotel and tell his son and call his dad, and my friend called her sister and his stepdad. They live in Broomfield, so they drove down and came to my house later that day. But yeah, it and then I don't know if anyone else has talked about this, but when they die by suicide, the coroner calls you and you have to do a suicide interview, which is horrific. Um, those the questions they ask. They don't tell you this, but they ask questions like, was there abuse in their childhood? And, I told the truth of what I knew. Like, he had a single dad who wasn't always around and had anger issues, and there might have been some hitting here and there, and this and that. And then I asked the coroner, I said, what time do you think he passed? And he said, well, he says, we're going to put 10 a.m. because that's when I got there.
Mm-hmm.
He says, but based on them canvassing the neighborhood, they heard gunshots about 2:30. So within 20 minutes of us all leaving him, he was gone.
Wow.
When was all this, Tammy?
This was March 2025.
Yeah. So coming up on a year ago,
Yeah.
how does that feel knowing that you're about to hit that first anniversary?
It's kind of interesting. Every first has been a little different because I think I remember the last one with him, and if it was a good one, like last Thanksgiving was great, so this
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving sucked. Last Christmas sucked. Like he did not go to Christmas Eve church with me, and he stayed in bed till 4, and I had to beg him to get out of bed and eat and do presents. So this Christmas there was a lot of joy because I spent it with my daughter and her soon to be in laws, and then I went up and saw his mom and his aunt and my stepsons, and so Christmas was great. If I look back in February, I've got his first birthday without him. And then March, our wedding anniversary, and then the death day. And same thing as birthday last year. Him and my son share a birthday, and what we do is everyone who has a birthday, we do one birthday party a month and we all get together. And even his birthday last year, all the kids were here, we were ready to eat, and he was still in bed showering. And so it's just interesting how if it's a good memory, it's a bad first. If it's a
Yeah.
bad memory, it's a good first. And just it's so back and forth. But it's interesting how it feels like forever, but still yesterday.
Yeah, for sure.
What did that, let's say, the first week look like for you? Because it's a pretty heavy situation with the police and right after everybody leaving and just like the traumatic shock. What did
Yeah.
that first week look like for you?
Well, I have to tell you a funny story from the first day. So, after we get done dealing with all that, because in the cops, his dad had to move his truck up into the driveway, and the boys went to their house, and my friend drove me here because I drove to her house that morning and we took my
Mm-hmm.
car to his house. So she's driving me everywhere, and we're just sitting on my couch in total shock, sitting in quiet, waiting for his mom and stepdad to get down here. And all of a sudden, I look out back and I was like, does it look like my yard is filled with smoke? And she was like, you don't think it's a cloud? And I'm like, at 3 in the afternoon? No, I don't. And so I go outside and my neighbors are burning tree limbs in their backyard. And this was March 24th and it was windy and we were under a burn ban at the time. So I get a chair and put it to my back fence and run the water hose and start putting their little fire out. And she goes and knocks on their door and they don't speak English. And so I'm I'm on a chair hosing on a fire, and all of a sudden I see her coming and running through their house with the man who lives there pointing at the fire. And I was like, in what world? Like, in what world? And so the lady kept telling me, it's fine, it's fine. And she would walk towards the fire, and I just kept squirting my hose at her so that she would back away. And I told her, I'm putting the fire out. Like, no,
This is not
no,
happening. Today's not the
no.
day,
Yeah.
lady.
I've got
So
enough
her,
going on today. I don't need you to burn my house down in the
Right?
so
process.
her and I go
Enough.
sit down, and I looked at her and I was like, wouldn't that been some fucking shit if my house burned down today too?
Right?
Like,
God. You just can't make that up.
no. And
Man.
so, the first week, I just remember kind of getting into get it done mode,
Yeah.
and there was just so much. And I told Kaylee this. There was a lot, and I know this was God. I started listening to you guys' podcast when it launched, so I had what, like 4 months under my
Yeah.
belt
Yeah.
of this. And I had joined a women's small group and we went through Jenny Allen's Untangle Your Emotions. It says it's okay to sit where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that was God preparing me for this because if I hadn't had that stuff, but yeah, right away,
Yeah.
like I remember there was an incident that, people want to help you, but it's not the help you want. So
Mm-hmm.
I was on the phone with the funeral home, and the owner was telling me about how long they'd been in business and all this stuff. And his stepdad, God love him, I mean, his intentions were good. He called who they had just used 2 years ago to bury Bobby's grandpa and was just trying to cut through it. And so then I just told him, I said, thank you, but I'm doing this and I've got it and this is fine. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just those healthy boundaries right away, I think helped. Because if I had just let people do things that I wanted to do or that I felt needed to be a certain way, I think I would have looked back and had a lot of regret about that first
Yeah.
week. But
Good for
I know
you.
I had to phone calls because he knew so many people. I mean, Kaylee was at the service. There was hundreds of people there. And thankfully, I had people that when I called them from certain friend groups, they're like, do you want me to let everyone else know? And I'm like, yes, please. And so
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of people come around me and help with that. Yeah, I just remember it being a lot of take care of this, take care of
Yeah.
this, take care of this. The phone calls, the setting up the funeral, and then just dealing with stupid shit. Like, people act like fools sometimes.
True.
Yeah.
I had an incident and where I had told people in my small group and I said, please don't share this more broadly. And within 30 seconds, I had a text from the host team pastor that we used to volunteer for. And I'm like, and I get a text, don't be mad that I told. And I'm like, yes,
I
I get to
am
be
Uh,
mad.
mad that you told. I told
yeah.
you not to tell. You told. I get to be mad.
Yeah.
Stop it. Right.
Yeah.
And so that kind of stuff was just like,
Yes.
swatted
Yeah.
away, right? And then my mom and sister came into town because we had his funeral was April 4th, and then I went back to work from home on the 6th. So I just took 2 weeks because part of me needed normalcy, because if my brain didn't have something to think about,
For
it
sure.
just focused on all that.
How's your relationship with his kids?
Oh, it's good. It's
Okay.
good. I feel very blessed when I listen to a lot of these episodes and how so many relationships have fallen apart, because that has not been my case at all.
Yeah.
Like, his mom came into town back in January and came over, and we had dinner and watched a movie, and she just texted that she's out of town right now and we'll get together soon. His dad still, there was a little while his dad stopped going to church because of some stuff that we kept finding out after he passed, but he goes to church with me almost every Sunday. We meet up at church. We do the birthday parties for the family still, so that includes both my stepsons, and they come to all of them, and they get along really well with my kids and my bonus mama bonus children. So yeah, we
I
get,
love that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
special.
And their mom hadn't been in the picture for 10 or 11 years now. So yeah.
I think in some ways, as far as your relationship with Bobby's family goes, I think in some ways it's a blessing that he struggled out loud as long as he did, because then, a lot of our stories, especially with suicide widows, those individuals kept it so hidden and kept it so closed door, and nobody knew about these struggles and nobody
Yes.
knew that they were in such a dark place. So when the suicide happened, everybody's so confused and doesn't know where to put this animosity towards. And so, as horrible as it is that he struggled as long as he
Yeah.
did and went through what he did, I think for the sake of where you're at now, I think it's a blessing that they knew
Yeah.
that he had these struggles,
Yeah.
and that they knew that it wasn't like something you were doing, like they knew
No.
about this.
No. And that's a great point, Kaylee. And I think we all had the same thing where we were like, what could we have done different? And then, I remember, I think it was that day in the hotel room, his stepdad came over, and I told both of them, I was like, I'm so sorry I didn't go to him. And his stepdad said, Tammy, had you, we might be burying two people right now.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, there's been no blame. And we all talk about, if we had saved him that time, it probably would have just delayed it. There,
Mhm.
and then the struggle that comes with that, right? Living with that constant worry about pins and needles of taking care of a person, which
Yeah.
I did a lot in that marriage anyway. I'd keep doing it if he let me, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. Loving somebody who struggles so much with illness is such a double-edged sword, because it's taxing on you. It is exhausting.
It
Exhausting
is.
having to be on pins and needles and never knowing what they need and how to help them. But,
Right.
you and I have had the discussion since Bobby passed, where as exhausting as it was, you would have done it forever if he was here. And so it's
Yep.
it's hard to balance those feelings of relief afterwards, where
Right.
you know that you don't have to do this job anymore,
Right.
and then the guilt from feeling the relief that you don't have to do that anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely intense some days, but better all the time.
So are you still in the same house then?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
We've sold his. Yeah. His boys moved out the following month, and that was quite the ordeal, but we got it sold.
This is oof. I have so many questions, but I don't know how to word
Let's
I don't
let's go.
well, I don't know how to word it. Let me think
Just
on it cuz I
spitball.
don't
What's on the top of your mind, Kristen?
Yeah.
well, I just want to so I looking at all this, I obviously have a different perspective because I am law enforcement, so I kind of understand everything that took place. But I can also look and see how families would feel like, what are you doing just leaving him in this state?
Yeah.
Have you had an opportunity to, I mean, I don't know that I would say recommend the body worn camera, but to talk to anybody, or do you have anything from that day that you're just like angry that of how things transpired?
Well, yeah, I was very angry, especially earlier, because the sweet young man that was like the lead for that night, I felt like he was asking me questions to get answers so he could detain him. But the laws are the laws, right? Like, he can only do what is allowed, because then you run into, illegal detaining of a person. So I sympathize with the jobs they have to do and the tough decisions they have to make. But the one that struggled was the biggest struggle for me was saying, we think he wanted us to shoot him. So we had to de escalate because in my mind, I cannot reconcile that statement with he's not a harm to himself or others. That to me felt like that was very in that line of sight. And I did file an internal affair investigation. They pulled the body cam, and
Mm-hmm.
Kaylee's mom's friend is in the police force. And so she went and talked to the person who did the investigation. And she talked to me a little bit about it and said he refused medical help at least 8 times. And so
Yeah.
I know that they did what they are supposed to in the realms of the law. I
Yeah.
think if they had more leniency to make judgment calls, they probably would have hauled him in. But like I said, the way the world is
Yeah.
today, they're damned if they do, and they're damned if they
Yeah.
don't. I think we put our first responders of all natures in really bad situations, and so I think policies need to change, right? And mental health attention needs to change. But I don't think they did anything that wrong that night, except that woman. She was a little rude, but God will deal with her. I had
Well, I'm
other
glad to
stuff
know
going
that
on.
I'm really glad to know that you like did file that internal affairs so it could be looked into. I don't know if it gives you peace of mind to know that it was looked into, but personally, I feel like it might give me. I
Yeah,
mean, we all had, obviously, all three of us have had traumatic
Mhm.
losses of spouses and
yeah, yeah.
trying to find
It
some sort
it
of
did
answer.
help. Yeah, it did help. It does make me sad though, like I said, for the state of our cops being under resourced,
Mhm.
the laws being what they are. And then I found out from Kaylee's mom that the crisis response team goes off duty at 11 o'clock. And how many times I sat and thought, if they had been on duty and called, would have ended differently. And why the hell is crisis done at 11 when most people who suffer from
Yeah,
these
that's
Over
when
the
types
it
of
night.
starts. That's the
illnesses,
time of
right?
night that those people
It's
start to struggle.
sunset to sunrise. Why are we?
Yeah,
Yeah. So there's definitely things I think that could change that would probably help people not be in this situation in the future.
for sure.
Yeah, no, that's good information, though. Um, did you, was he starting to do drugs again? Do you know? Or,
No, and that was really hard. So when I got the preliminary autopsy, this is what made me mad about the suicide interview. Like, first, I don't think you should be able to do an interview like that with someone when their hours of learning that their spouse just took their life.
Yeah,
right.
no. Give me a minute for the love
Right.
of
And they
God.
should disclose that anything you're saying is going on the autopsy report.
Mm-hmm.
They did
Oh,
not tell me that. So when I get the autopsy report back, it says history of child abuse, history of drug, and I'm like, because then I'm thinking this is selfish, but life insurance, like,
yeah,
have I just told myself, just running my mouth? I mean, not, I wouldn't have lied, but I might not disclose so much. And I didn't say there was child abuse. So I emailed the coroner's office right back. I'm like, where did you get this information?
who told you these things?
And he was like, well, it was from your interview. And I'm like, I don't even remember what I said.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
who does that to someone within hours of the most traumatic event of their life?
yeah,
right.
And so, honestly, all of us were hoping there were drugs in his system because it would make it make sense. Like, because one thing you hear about meth addicts is a lot of times they'll pick up where they stopped and
hmm
it messes them up severely because Bobby told me at the end he was smoking all day long in his car, at work, in the
Mm.
bathroom, like nonstop. And so if he had, you know, hit the pipe like that, but he was completely clean. So yeah,
Wow.
he stayed sober for those 2 years.
Wow. I mean, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Yeah, and that's another thing. It's bittersweet. Like you want it because you want an explanation. You want to have again something to blame, something to
Right,
make it make sense in your brain. But then at the same time, of course, you don't want that to be the case. You don't want that to
right.
be where he was at in life
Yep,
again, and you don't want to know that he had fallen because then that also brings up the, well, what could I have done to keep that from happening? And
right.
so definitely
Yeah,
bittersweet, a relief, I think, overall to know that
yeah. It was. It was a relief.
it wasn't something that he did to
Yeah.
himself.
No. Yeah. I truly. I mean, he had a psychotic break,
Yeah,
and that's just what happened that night in that moment. He let those intrusive thoughts win, and I believe When he found God, his heart was like on fire for Jesus. There was no stopping him. Like that became his new addiction, which I know is not healthy either. Like, okay. But if you're going to be addicted to something, I can get on board with Jesus.
Right.
And I truly believe that the devil goes over after those that are the biggest threat to his,
Mhm.
realm. So I think he went after Bobby hard that week and night.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about what life has been like since. Like, I know you've talked a little bit about how the firsts were some have been harder than others.
Yeah. Yeah. Selling the house was quite an emotional event. We got an offer on it pretty quick, and then when the or seller's contract came through for me to sign, there was a line where you had to disclose if meth had ever been stored, manufactured, or used in the house. So I was like, well, darn it. So I called my realtor and I'm like, hey, I need to disclose. I said I never witnessed it, but I'm certain he smoked it in his house. And she was like, well, if you don't know for sure, I said, I am not going to go
Yeah,
to
I don't
hell
Yeah.
for wobbly lines. So I've got other things I'll probably go to hell for, but this is not going to be one of
Not
them.
that one, though.
And so I disclosed it, and then that opens up a whole can of worms because then you have to get it tested. And the people who were buying it were a husband and wife who were a real estate agent and a house flipper. And so you could not get into a contract with two worse people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they're lovely humans, but
That
Only
was
the
a
one can
lot.
nature
compare. Yeah.
Yeah.
of the nitpicking and then the inspections they did, and they're asking about sump pumps in the basement. And I told my realtor, I'm like, can you remind them the owner's dead so I can't find this out for them? It's a
Yeah.
sump pump. Like it pumps water out when there's like, I don't know what to tell you. So they were just, it was like, that was like a full-time job between that and the insurance. And so then let's see what happened with that. So they came in and did the test, and the guy, the number he gave me, told me for the upstairs level, it was the equivalent of a meth manufacturing lab. And I lost my mind.
Wow.
And I am known for reacting in emotion, not responding with facts. So I call a truck and have them pull up to my house, and everything that I think was from his house, I had hauled off by We Haul Junk. And
Yeah.
even
Wow.
before that, one day I remember I was sitting, so we had the same couch sets. I liked his so much when we first started dating, I bought the same one. So when he moved in, we mixed and matched pieces because of what was in each room. So there was some of his furniture in both rooms, some of mine in both rooms. I remember one night I was sitting on the couch watching TV, and he had a big TV, and I started going, huh, I wonder if him and that girl made out on this couch. Wonder if they had that little fireplace going. Wonder if they watched this TV. So I text his youngest son, who doesn't have as much money as brother, like stockpiles. I'm like, hey, do you want a couch and a fireplace and a TV? And so I replaced that living room. And then the meth day, I was like, oh my gosh, all the blankets on the blanket ladder, all this. And so I called We Haul Junk, or when it had someone, and then I was like, how much is it? And they're like, we're just going to call you for the rest of the truck because those couches are big. So I lift my garage door and I'm like, haul all that away too. And I just,
Just
Wow.
take it.
Take it all.
so then they leave, and then I go sit in the living room and I'm like, I don't have anywhere to sit and watch TV. So I just put a little camping chair in my living room and a TV chair. I felt like a college student again.
Ah.
Luckily, there was a second set I had liked when I replaced the first room at American Furniture. So I just got on that night and ordered all that furniture and had it delivered. So I was only like that for a week. But yeah, then I sat there and I was like, Tammy, girl, you got to calm down. Because then, so these first people who did the meth test, like, if you guys ever have to deal with this, which I pray you don't, holler, because I've done all the research and I read all the ordinances and stuff, but it's a big old money making racket. I hope someone in the government hears that because it's true. So the first people who did it weren't even certified. So then I had to pay a second one who's certified by the state, that you have to go through all these
Oh
Excel
my gosh.
spreadsheets that are buried in all these links. And he comes in, and I think like the first number was 120 something for the level upstairs, and it came back with him and it was like 12. And so I think they didn't do an average. I think they forgot to divide the samples of the first one, because he called me and he says, I have your report ready, but before I send it to anyone, I want to put your mind at ease. He says, these levels, he says, there's parts of the house that don't even need remediated.
Mm.
And,
Wow.
and he's like, and some of them, the levels, Dawn dish soap and a rag will get it off. And I'm like,
Wow.
great. If Dawn dish soap and a rag gets us off, why do we have a whole government body charging all this money?
Yeah.
Because you can't remediate it. Like I
Yeah,
could
no,
clean it, but I'm not certified, so it wouldn't count.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that just turned into a big old thing. So I finally let that contract expire and listed it as is for investors and dropped the price, and that's how we ended up selling it. And they actually just sold the house. They listed it in December because they agreed to do the remediation. So once you sell it as is, you're no longer legally liable for remediation. The next
okay.
buyer assumes that, which was nice. And that was part of it, because the other way I had to remediate before they bought it, and I
Yeah.
didn't want to deal with that. Like
No.
I'm trying to work and deal with,
A
kids who just
million other
lost their dad and
exactly.
stepdad, right? Like,
Yeah.
and the boys were getting all the money from the house sale, and so I talked to them too, and I'm like, "Are you guys okay?" And they're like, you just need to stop having to deal with this. This sounds like a nightmare." And I'm like, "Okay, then that's what we're going to do."
Your stepchildren sound absolutely amazing.
I
They
love them
are.
so much.
Oh my
I
They're
love
gosh.
sweet.
her real children and her bonus children are some of my favorite humans to ever walk this
Yeah,
earth.
yeah. I am a very blessed woman to have so many incredible people around me.
Wow. Like that really is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oof.
So so that took me through July to get all that wrapped up, and then I went to Africa with work, and that was
You
amazing.
did?
Yes.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it's I've just kind of got so it was hard to get Bobby to do stuff when he was in his downs, and so there was a lot of things that I wanted to do that I didn't do, and this and that, and we never spent our honeymoon fund because
Hmm.
he would get anxious about traveling and wouldn't want to pick a place. Would say I couldn't miss work, but it's like, okay, but you slept the whole week and missed work, so you can miss work. But
Right.
like, and so right before the trip, a lot of us got in on Saturday night, and the work stuff didn't start till Monday. And so one of the girls I work with was like, "Hey, once in a lifetime opportunities. Anyone want to hike up in the jungle and meet silverback gorillas?" And so I was like, that would be a
Yes.
good thing to use honeymoon money for.
That's a
So
Yes.
fantastic thing to do.
yeah,
Yes.
so yeah, I went to Kigali and hiked up, met
I
silverback
love that
gorillas,
so
just
much.
like
Wow.
jungles in the mist. It's in that same area. So
Oh, how
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Definitely
So
send us some pictures of that so we can post
I
that in the
will, I
episodes
Yes.
will.
for sure.
I have videos of them. It's funny.
That's
It was just the most peaceful thing, and everybody's like, "Weren't you scared?" And I'm like, "No, they were just so friendly, and they just yeah, it was
So
awesome." So
cool.
love that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, anything big on the horizon for you for going into the next year?
And let's see. Oh, real quick, for my 52nd birthday, I had some honeymoon money left over, so I took me and my sister to Hawaii for a week. So that was fun too. Yeah.
I
Nice.
love the travel bug.
I do love it.
I've said it a million times on this
Mm,
show. I'll say it a million more. I think that traveling
it's
is one of the
healing.
most healing things that you can do,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially after a
So,
loss like this.
right. I'm going to North Carolina in May. I have a dear friend that we actually reconnected through Bobby's passing, because she has a husband who suffers with alcohol addiction. And in Bobby's obituary, I had said, in lieu of flowers, donate to Hope is Alive, which is a sober house, because his men's group at church would volunteer with them. And so he always had talked about he wished he should do more with them and wished he had done more. So I thought that was a way he could do more and
Yeah.
honor his death. And so I think when she read that, she thought maybe his passing had to do with alcoholism. And
Mm,
Mm.
so, and we were really close in high school and just hadn't talked in the last few years. And her husband's been in and out of rehab since we reconnected. And so she's kind of doing the single lady thing because they're legally separated. And it's another way I see God in it, that, he brought us in so that we could be here. Like New Year, we did New Year's Eve together because we were like, we're not going to spend New Year's Eve alone. And so like
Yeah.
Valentine's Day, her and I are going to a movie so that we don't have to be
mm,
alone on Valentine's Day.
Love
So
that.
that is
yeah, just
beautiful.
trying to find healthy ways to find connection
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I'll be going to her daughter's graduation in May, and I might have another work trip to Nairobi before June.
Wow.
Wow, okay.
And then I had a little too much whiskey at a fundraiser, and so I bid on 4 days at a cabin in Minnesota on a lake. So I got to figure out when to do that sometime this year.
That's cool, though.
That's a good
Yeah.
trip. That's good.
Kaylee, we don't have any cool stories like I drank too much
No.
whiskey and this is what I did. We're usually like, oh gosh, this is what I
My
did.
gosh, you
Yeah, I
guys,
drank too much whiskey and I
yeah,
can't tell you
no.
what I did.
I was a maniac. I chair a board of a nonprofit in town. It's our annual fundraiser. So we do a silent auction. You raise your paddle. And I historically always raise my paddle to drive up prices. And this
Mhm.
year I had some of my life insurance money left over and was like, so I got
Fuck it.
a race car adventure that I can't use because you have to have a high performance car, but I bid on it because no one else was and I was embarrassed. And then I got 4 days in Minnesota and I got four
God.
tickets to a fire pit at the concert of my choice at Ford Amphitheater.
Let's go.
Mm.
I
Okay.
got I got a whiskey tasting experience at a whiskey house in Nashville with all food and drink
I
taken care
mean,
of. I
Oh my
get
gosh,
you
girl.
got you
I
got
Yeah.
some great stuff.
Okay, the auctioneer came over and introduced himself and gave me his card when it was done because I was such a maniac. So I gifted the racetrack thing to my financial advisor and I gifted the whiskey house to my little sister and her husband because they're a teacher and a police officer and they haven't had a honeymoon and they don't have a lot of money to travel. So I gave
Mm,
that to them. So
I love
yeah,
that.
I
it was
love
fun.
that. Good for you.
What about dating/widow's fire? Any of that yet? Had to deal with any of that?
Just recently.
Okay.
And so here, what had happened was back in October, back in October, I was at a beer fest and I ran into a gentleman that I had a thing for back in the day that we hooked up once after me and the kids' dad divorced back in like 2007.
Mhm.
And he finds me on Instagram and we start talking and we start hanging out. And I was fine just being like friends, right?
Yeah.
And then he kissed me and some other stuff happened. And then I did my usual Tammy react in emotion, like, I am more than just this, and I deserve a relationship, and right? And
I feel like
then
I've
that
said that,
week I was
Kaylee.
like, right? And then that week I was like, but I don't want a relationship. Like, I that week I had had dinner with two married friends and lunch with a married friend, and I'm like, no, yeah, no, I
I'm
don't
good.
want that. Like,
Yeah.
even so, Kristen, you don't know this, but Bobby was my third husband, so I'm twice divorced and once widow, and I feel like that's enough marriage for a lifetime. So, and I
Got
think
that out of my
back,
system.
Yeah.
yeah, I think back, and like all of my marriages had strife. I listened to some of your widows that just had these amazing relationships, and I just get so pissed off because I deserve that, and I haven't
Hmm.
had that, and I'm such a bad picker. I'm like, why am I getting mad about something I don't even want?
Yeah.
And so we talked, and we both are coming out of losses. He had a traumatic breakup, and his mom passed, but I think he made a bad decision last night that breaches my trust. So I may have to
Mm.
cut that out of my life and not hang out with him anymore because
Mm.
um, my peace is too valuable and I'm too valuable to
100%.
let let people be
Yeah.
ding dongs. But I don't know. That could also be just my head, but
Yeah.
could be God's discernment being like, Tammy, knock this shit off, right? So
Right.
It
could go
is.
either way. I don't know. I have a text from him, so we'll find out in a little while.
Fair enough.
Tammy's
Yeah,
going to
but the
have to
widow
come back and
fire.
give us the update
I
now.
know. Exactly.
So, next Saturday, Tammy, 10 a.m.
Right, next Saturday. The widow fire never hit me when I hear you guys talk about that. And I
Mm.
don't know if it's because, so Bobby and I had the best sex life of any of my partners while he
Mhm.
was on meth. Once he was off meth, it changed. And that was another way he felt like he misled me in the relationship. And so I think because of that and the revelation of cheating right before he passed that I never got to work through because
Yeah.
we didn't have a chance. It just was like the furthest thing from my mind. In fact, like Kaylee knows this, bless her heart. She's watched me be bananas when it comes to men for 17 years. Like as soon as I have a breakup, I'm like on a dating app And I have not done that at all in 11 months. Um, and even like he and I, we hung out for 2 months before we even kissed, and he's the one who initiated it. So
Yeah.
this just for me shows really, really strong growth, because I am not about to put myself in heartbreak's path again. I don't know that I have it in me without going to jail on the other side of it next time.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know, my dad called me the other day and was asking about you and how you've been doing. It was right after the engagement party for
Oh
your
yeah,
daughter.
yeah.
So I told him that you had said that you had gone on a date or so. And he was like, "Man, that woman just deserves the absolute world. And I just hope to God that she finds it because she
Oh
deserves to be treated so well." And there's an ongoing joke for those of you listening that Tammy and my uncle are supposed to end up together one day. But my uncle is a bit of a shit show right now.
yeah,
So then he was talking about that and he was like, if my brother would get his shit together, I'd introduce him, but I just can't do it to her.
yeah. No, no. And see, I know that he don't have his shit together, so I'm not even asking about it. Except
I
that
know.
one night I was drunk and Kaylee went in my mouth.
Boy.
I didn't even remember saying it.
That's
It
funny.
happens. It happens. Oh,
Yeah, no.
goodness.
Oh, Tammy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing that story.
Yeah,
Like,
I know
You're
it's a lot,
welcome.
wow.
but I'm proud of you.
Um, I do have some advice, and I don't know if this would be helpful,
Love it.
but I started feeling like I had gotten in this routine when I would get up and was lonely. I'd be like, I'd walk around the quiet house just going, oh my gosh, I'm a widow. I'm a widow of suicide. I'm a widow. And for a little while, widowhood and suicide became like my identity.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Even people reaching out, and, everything was, and I wanted to honor suicide and mental awareness. But then I one day had to tell myself, sister, this is not your identity. This is
Hmm.
Yeah.
something that happened on your journey, who's forming who you're becoming. And that mindset shift helped me so much. About month, probably 5 or 6, I was
Hmm.
really, really tail diving. And once I did that and told myself, Bobby believed we would all be better off while he was gone.
Hmm.
He was wrong to think that's what had to happen, because really, Bobby had a choice. He could have done what he needed to do to be healthy, and we
Hmm.
all would have been happy too, right? So, what I keep telling myself is, if I don't do my hardest to live my best life, his death was that much more in vain.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I want to honor that he wanted us all to be happier, even though he was wrong about how that needed to happen. That by doing that's how I can best honor him.
I love that.
I love that too.
And I
Yeah,
think he would
so
too.
I think so too.
Ugh.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing.
thank you guys
I've been
for
trying to
having me.
hype myself up all week to be ready for this episode because I love Bobby. And I mean, I was there through the whole journey, so I know the ups and downs. And I also know that there are no hugs like a Bobby hug. And
Nope.
there are many days where I just wish that I could have a Bobby hug.
Me too.
So I love you
Oh,
and I love you for
Love
Tammy,
sharing
you.
this. And we love him. And thank you for letting us share
Thank
thank
you
you.
his
guys.
journey.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you. And thank you for this podcast. It's been a blessing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All
All
right,
right,
I'll
take care.
come back with an update on whatever
Yes, we need the
nonsense
update.
is happening.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.